started. Nice to see everybody. How y'all doing? Are you liking the content so far? Yeah, good, some good things. Yeah, all right. Welcome and thanks everyone for coming. We're super excited, Kristin and I, to be talking to everybody and kind of giving some inside look to how to, money basics, right? How to get your business or passion or something like that off the ground, okay? First, thank you to the Guild of Supervisors for having us. We're super excited. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Taylor Cutliff. I actually am a financial advisor here at Morgan Stanley in California. I'm originally from Philly, so if I say weird things like Twitter or bagel or some of these other fancy things, feel free to laugh. I do it all the time. I get it. I can take it. But if I'm also talking too fast, let me slow down. Other part of my background, how I got into the business. I grew up, I was speaking with a couple of people over here. There wasn't a lot of free-flowing information, let's say, about money and where to start and what to do. And we were always taught that money was very taboo, right? No, don't ask how much people make, don't ask what they're going to be doing. But in my mind, I ask people how they make a spaghetti sauce. I ask people if I want to buy a home. I ask them where they want to live. I ask them, hey, where do I want to send my kids to school? So why not money? Why isn't there a space to ask about that? And that's the thing. All you have to do is really ask, and that's what we wanted to kind of build an environment today of, hey, this is a safe space. Everyone's going through it, believe it or not. We have so many clients in the music and entertainment industry that ask us the same questions, right? And it's like, oh man, if we all just talk together, we'd really be able to figure this out. But also having people, again, with entertainment background and, can kind of know what questions to ask and really get a sense of, hey, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Because even though in the same industry, doesn't necessarily everyone's portfolio or corporation or business setup looks exactly the same. So that's why we're here, trying to help with retirement. We'll hit on taxes, we'll hit on loans, right? Thank you. Yeah, we actually did have
easily early, so.
Yeah, he was like, do this, and I want to know this, I want to know this. I was like, perfect. So we're talking about all of those things. If you have specific questions, we would love you to ask, specific feedback. Hey, I'm starting a recording studio. I am starting out in the music supervision industry. What do I do? How do I set up my company? Please ask those questions if we don't go over it today. But I have talked enough. I let my better half start and introduce herself.
Thanks. I'm just going to sum up and compliment what Taylor just said. This is not a fake until you make it room right now. We're vulnerable. We get to ask the hard questions. If you have it, someone else has it too. Money is stuff to talk about, and it's tied to a lot of emotions. So who am I? Some of you I know, and I'm so happy to see some familiar faces, but my name is Kristin Summers. I'm a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley with Taylor, but my background is quite unique and relatable to a lot of you. I used to be a music supervisor and worked in music publishing. So I worked on some feature films, format entertainment. That's where I started in the industry back in 2009, like The Blind Side, Sex and the City 2, Ramona and Jesus, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I had my very first song placement on the Coach's monophonic ringtone in The Blind Side. That was my first song placement way back in the day. So from there, I crossed over into publishing. I was at Heavy Hitters Music for a couple of years with the very great and late David Delslaughter, and I can't say it, I'm going to start tearing up, but I'm so disappointed if you all know her that she's not here today. I was always going to cry for that. But she's amazing, and she used to be a big part of the guild. So anyway, so I was with Cindy at Heavy Hitters Music, worked in publishing for a moment, and then I went freelance, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. I did some streaming projects, I music supervised the award show, just kind of little this and that's for a while before I went in-house at CBS. I worked at CBS for 4 years. I music supervised the daytime talk show The Talk, where I had my first and only daytime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Music in a Talk Show when I was 26, I think. Then at 27, I was asked to create and start teaching the music supervision for film and TV program at Belmont University and the West Coast location. I did that for about 5 years. I worked with Cutliff Music, and I mentored over 1,000 songwriters there in the year that I worked with them. So, did all that, totally fried myself, and like a good millennial, I then immediately quit my job, sold all my stuff, and left the country for a year.
Super casual.
Yeah, no big deal. Totally reasonable reaction. So, left the country, traveled, figured out what was next, and that was building on my strengths. We're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses for all of you today. But my strengths are math, budgeting, projections, spreadsheets, kind of the boring stuff that music supervisors eventually grow out of. And I thought, well, what industry could I focus on and love better than the one that I've been a part of for all of my professional career, which is the music industry. So I'm an entertainment financial advisor. I work with music supervisors, a lot of film composers. I have clients at Netflix and Crown Media Hallmark. I have freelancers, I have in-house. I have clients all over the country who are looking for guidance on things like planning their retirement, paying less in taxes, buying properties, managing their portfolios. So again, safe space to ask questions about all this stuff, as basic or as complex as you might think it is. So the topic that we have today that we were invited to come speak about by the Guild, and hopefully this isn't our last time here if we don't put you all to sleep, is how do we set up our businesses for success? If you're going out on your own as an artist or a freelance supervisor, or starting a catalog, whatever it is, dream big, of course. Whether or not you recognize it, and especially speaking to the artists, you are a business owner, you are a small business owner, and you have to think like one if you really want to make yourself successful. So that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to start by talking about how to create a business plan, strategies to support the success of your business, financial challenges that you might face along the way, either now or in the future, how to find money for your company. We're going to really kind of go over the basics on that one, because that one can go very far in depth. And then lastly, Taylor's going to bring us home with some California relevant information about benefits, how to set yourself up a little bit more strategic with your employees. So let's jump in. We're going out on our own, we're getting started. My question for you all, because I don't want to assume anything about you, is I would love to hear some of your professional goals right now. We're a small enough group. If someone's interested in sharing, I would love some volunteers. What are professional goals that you have currently? Yeah, Ashley.
To fund educational programs for teaching needs children and prisoners to prevent or support recidivism.
Wow.
And do that by music. So music with an entertainment with purpose, so that because music is a really great product. It makes it one time, which is
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that we can do. I really love music and entertainment. I think we can do something and have it more so that has purpose behind it. So I honestly,
Giving back. I love that. Just for people in the back, Ashley said that her professional goals right now are around finding funding to help underprivileged communities through music, single women, prisoners, some of the communities that sometimes get left behind. So I love that. Philanthropy, giving back, doing good for the world. Beautiful. Anybody else have any professional goals they're working on right now? Yeah, what about over here? Safe space again.
So I currently host a podcast for music and film. And where I wanted to go is maybe create a publishing company to where I can gather music from around the world to where it's not so popular. And as far as like creating marketing wise, like having special music videos or music marketing videos in some studio and create like cinematography type marketing campaign videos.
Oh my God.
So far, that's what I'm going for.
So you want to do everything, you want to take over the music industry, basically? Let's do it. I love it. Everybody here, you heard first. I love it. Publishing, branding, music library, having international connections. I love it. Great. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm an independent singer-songwriter. I'd love to have like that as a business, but I also have like other business ideas. I help people with digital marketing, I help train people teaching business skills to freelancers, I do like a bunch of different things, and where I usually get stuck is like, which bucket am I working on in this moment? So to ask about, business goals, I'm like, I don't know all of them, why not? Make $1 million.
Yeah, sure. We all have that.
So I'm really interested in seeing what you all have to say, especially for some of us who are juggling a lot of businesses actually.
So your goal is figuring out your goal.
My goal is to do really cool shit and make a good, decent living.
Hell
Love it.
Love it. Yeah. That's probably everybody's goal. Yeah, marketing.
So,
Done.
I have a colleague, and this is a really cool project, because music is such a powerful, emotive experience. For the past 10 years, he's been doing a deep dive into music and the brain. It's almost like music for purpose.
Yeah.
So if you could have a soundtrack for your life where you wake up in the morning, and for you, with your own biofeedback, it's playing that eases you into consciousness, or when you need to have music for focus for work, or you need music for meditation, or music for healing or anxiety, but not just, anecdotal. We're talking about like true, functional MRIs and all of that feedback. And I think where we're stuck is because even though I'm good at my part, he's really good at his part. It's more the venture capital to have, and we have scientists on the team, but how do we actually structure the VC so that as it launches, we can have the systems in place.
Yeah.
So with that really good systems thinking and then the financing behind that, because that is not my superpower.
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of that investment speed bump where we don't quite know how to get to that part of it. So I think it's probably easily solved, it's just not my wheelhouse.
Very cool. So a little tech, a little biotech, a little funding.
Yeah, it's more the funding,
Uh-huh.
more how that works with, investors and as far as ownership and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Funny enough, we debated whether we want to talk about VCs specifically today. We decided against it, but if you want to talk privately, we definitely
Fair
can.
enough, thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing to the few of you. Unfortunately, you just signed up for me to pick on you for the rest of the year. So that's what's happening. Okay, I advanced the slide without realizing. Questions to ask yourself. We've got our ideas, or maybe we're figuring out exactly what those goals look like. But these are some questions to get you thinking about, okay, is my idea actually a viable business, or do I need to put a little bit more work in? So questions like, how much time can I devote to my business? Now, this isn't necessarily how many hours in the day, but do you have the income to support your ability to start your business as you are right now? Or do you maybe need to hang on to that salary job if you have the luxury of a salary job in the music industry, and maybe your business is a side hustle? So doing a little bit of self-analysis on your income and how you can be spending your time most efficiently. What problem are you solving? If you can't answer that question, you don't have a viable business idea. What is it that is a hole in the industry or a hole in the area where you're trying to advance that you have the answer to the question? Who else is doing what I'm doing? For anybody interested in music supervision or freelance music supervision, we're at a conference of 300 music supervisors, so there are a lot of people wanting to do what you're doing or something like it. So that's your competition. It's great to understand what is it that they're doing well and maybe not so well where you can step in. And then how do you make yourself stand out? So using Taylor and I as examples, there are lots and lots of financial advisors in this country. I don't know that
Morgan Stanley's got 16,000.
Okay, there you go, our firm alone, plenty of competition. But I don't know that I've ever met an entertainment financial advisor, specifically one who's worked in the industry. So for me, as a small business owner, that's how I stand out. And then the last one on here that I want to mention is resources. And this, of course, comes in the way of money. Do you have money to fund your idea? Do you have your own assets, IRAs, insurance, whatever it is that you might want to pull from to fund your business? But even more importantly than that, do you have maybe a network you can draw from? Do you have industry experience that you can draw from? think about these as resources as well. So first thing is building a business plan. I'm a big fan of Oprah Winfrey. I don't know if anybody else in here is, but I think she's wonderful. So I threw this quote up here. I thought it was really relevant for what we're talking about today. So when we're thinking about taking those ideas, we've answered those initial questions, we've got a viable business idea, now we're creating a business plan. So you'll see some duplicative questions here. Again, what makes you different, what makes you stand out, things like that. But what I want to point out is what and who is your market. Because a lot of people say, everybody needs my service, or everybody needs my music library, right? But I'm going to give you a really relevant example. I was with one of my clients yesterday, who's a very large film composer, and he's working on his first TV show. And I said, tell me about the TV show. And he said, it's so boring. And I said, okay, why is it so boring? And the reason is because he's used to doing 2-hour story arcs rather than 30, 45-minute this and this and this. And he said, it's the same thing every episode. I can only score so many intense interrogation scenes, and I don't know what else to do with it. So maybe TV isn't his market, and that might be something for you to think about when you're building out your ideas. I also mentioned marketing down at the bottom here. So for what your idea is, does social media presence make a difference? Or is word of mouth marketing something that's going to make sense for your idea? A little win if you're just getting started that I like to suggest for new business owners or new artists, music supervisors, using business owner as a sort of coverall, is calendaring. I know it sounds really basic, whether it's a digital calendar, paper calendar, or all three, if you're like me, and I just have 5 sticky notes, whatever your mind maps, whatever your system is. But calendaring is a really nice way to keep your motivation up. Just a little bit of a tip for you all. Come up with your, for example, your marketing goals. You want to have a social media campaign, right? Where do I start? Okay, well, I need to create an account. So maybe by Friday, I'm going to create that account. That goes on your calendar. Then when you get to Friday, you've already achieved one goal. It gives you just a little psychology, a little bit of motivation to keep going and feel like you are achieving something along the way. Okay, I'll mention this one. I wasn't going to, but I'm changing my mind. Seems obvious. I don't know if you all know Kristin Agee. She's here. She doesn't know I'm using her as an example right now. I'll have to tell her later. But she owns a great music library called 411 Music. There is another woman in our industry who wanted to start a library, and she is 4'11", so she wanted to start a library called 411 Music, and that doesn't really work. Kristin's already got the corner on that one. So making sure that you don't have competition with your names, of course, very important. So we've got our business plan, we've got some ideas, we're moving along. Next step is to consider, maybe you all recognize this from earlier days, SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, simply, what are you good at? Weaknesses, where are you lacking? That could be money, that could be knowledge, network, whatever it might be. Opportunities tend to apply a little bit more to industry. So, for example, is there a music trend that's swinging toward the direction that you know to write for? That's an opportunity for you. Just as the opposite is true, a threat would exist if, let's say, a lot of synth-heavy music is becoming very trendy and you're used to writing with acoustic instruments, for example. So understanding where your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats lie. And I'm going to pick on people again, just a reminder, I'm a former professor, so we have no problem. Actually, Taylor, you want to pick on some people? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Well, does anyone want to volunteer first?
Oh, that's kind.
Okay, so that's fine. So anybody have any strengths particularly? Strengths that they wouldn't mind sharing? There you go.
I've been composing since 1975.
That's strength.
And the other
Awesome.
part is, I'm now looking to sell my catalog that I own, with my
Fantastic.
partner and I.
Okay,
So experience is a tremendous strength
absolutely.
after you've, haven't had too many failures.
Oh, that's good.
You learn from your failures.
Yeah.
So I've done about 75 movies,
Wow.
not all big, some of them have gotten good exposure, but when you've done that many movies under that many deadlines, you start to understand what's needed.
Yeah.
So that's, experience is one, and I'm not quitting the industry even though I could retire.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you. Wow.
Are we still working on anything? Maybe not project related, but just, okay, you obviously have this long, long list of history.
Since I can ask this question now, yeah, I'm building a film company. I'm
Great.
going to the American film market to sell my first feature. It's a documentary feature, but it's full length. And so this is a good seminar in the sense of funding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was what I was going to ask about, because there is money out there
Absolutely.
for both catalogs, music catalogs that you own, and of course, original material for film. New
Absolutely.
films.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll touch on that.
We will, some of the basics of funding, but we've got a lot more that we unfortunately decided to cut out, and now they're more against popular one.
I
But we can go into it.
But again, also too, just quickly, if anybody, I know there is a celebrity in another room as well. So if you do need to leave and go somewhere, we have a little sign-in sheet as well, or if you, on the right side of your folders, there's a feedback form. Kristin, I mean, we were gonna say it at the end, but just in case people leave. We are doing, kind of 30-minute free consultations anytime we do something in person. Sign up, leave a feedback form. One, we just, wanna make sure that we're not putting people to sleep. I'm in the back, okay? All right, he wasn't asleep, But, yeah, so just, if you want to, we'd love to talk, because obviously we're gonna cover things really general, but as we said before, there's, 20, 30 people in here, and you all have very specific, just even the 4 or 5 people that shared what they're doing, all totally different projects that are working on, and all call for totally different business setups, funding, tax implications, retirement services, so, there's a form, or you can either service feedback.
Absolutely. Or if you're too shy to ask questions.
Yeah.
Friendly too. All right, so we've gone over our SWOT analysis, we've gone over our business plan, we have an idea, it's working, it's moving in the right direction. These are going to be the components of really bringing that business plan to life, starting with your mission, your vision, and your goals. What is it that you hope your idea can do? What are some of those goals that we're looking for? And the vision is, what do we hope that people achieve or obtain by spending time with your library or music supervision services or what have you. 2 through 4 are a little bit about marketing, things to think about. 5 is one that I think people forget. It's surrounding yourself with the right employees or the right alignment. Did you say women? Women. Because realize this room, this conference is such a small industry. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and they say it's who you know. I actually say it's who knows you, who comes to mind, or when do you come to mind when someone is looking for the thing that you offer. So making sure that you have the right team around you can be so important to getting your business off the ground.
It's not who you can see, it's who can see you.
Yeah, same idea. I love it. Respectable sponsor. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next section. So, strategies for supporting the success of your business. Right at the top, having that business plan in place. The reason I think this is so important is because it's really easy to have recency bias or goldfish brain, which is what I call it for myself, which is, oh yeah, this was the idea I had 5 minutes ago, but what is it that I'm actually tracking for? Having this business plan is going to give you a benchmark and sort of a railroad track for you to be able to follow over time. I also recommend not having your business plan be static, not having it be one point in time document that you use for the next 30 years. Instead, update it every quarter or 6 months or whatever is appropriate for your business, your idea. Because quite frankly, I'm going to tell you, I can't legally guarantee a lot of things in our industry because we're super regulated, but I can guarantee that your company is not going to go to plan. Things are going to happen. The market's going to change. The industry is going to change. New technology comes out. People aren't going to want to work with you the way that you thought they would. So keep your business plan flexible and updatable. All right, so here's bad news in owning your own business or making something come to life. It's not easy, quite frankly. These are some stats from a Forbes article. Taylor and I have built our own financial advising practices. Would you say that these are in line with what you've experienced? Yeah. I mean, it looks sad on the screen. It does. It looks very sad on the screen.
But I will say, you know, I, much like all of you, probably really love what you're doing, right? Really have a passion for it, really want it to work. And you're trying to pull in the right people and get extra work done, and especially when, you know, you're trying to do all these things and you're starting to recognize, you know, hey, I'm not good at the funding part, I'm not good at the money part, or I'm not good at the networking part, right? I mean, I'm biased because we are money, and we're like, yeah, let's do it, that's our strong suit, let's talk about it. But, you know, just figuring that out, and a lot of people, if you're like me, right, it's hard to give people other things to do, right? Pull in other experts, let go a little bit of control, right? So this tends to be even more so, right? Work all of the weekends, or, you know, take fewer than 2 vacation days, right? Work while on vacation, right? That's definitely something that we run into a lot.
Yeah, when you're starting out, it's just you. There's no way to cover you if you want to take a day off, and these are things to think about when you are starting with a new idea. So let's talk about the challenges if we haven't scared you enough. I'm going to ask for more volunteers. Taylor, you want to grab some people? Oh yeah, let's see. Anybody have any financial challenges? I like the laugh. Don't we all?
I'll say it.
I was about to say, I was like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
I saw some volunteers.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is like, you know, leaving the day job, do what you want to do, and it's just that scary thing of like, you know, just going all in.
right,
What
and
you
when
want
do
to
you
do,
do it?
and then, you know, without, you know, oh my God, now I don't have the paycheck,
Right,
and now it's Monday.
right, and are you set up enough? And that's something we'll talk about too, is, right, business, right, needs your funds, and so does your personal life, right? So how do you figure out, okay, when do I make that jump, right? How am I set up? Will this work? And of course, you know, you have all the confidence in yourself. I have the confidence in you. I don't know. We don't really know each other that well, but I'm like, you already raised your hand, you're already like, yeah, I'm going for it, that's confident, okay? You know, that's a lot, you're right, that's a great way to start. And I know, I saw a hand up over here.
Yeah, taxes moving from,
Yep.
you know, I'm at the point where I'm moving from a single member entity LLC to an S corp.
Yep.
So hopefully I'm kind of, you know, alleviating that, but
Absolutely,
That's
and
certainly-
understanding, you know, the differences between the two, right? Having somebody actually sit down and say, hey, this is the difference, this is what you have, this is what you're going into, is this something that fits with your goal, right? Did you think of doing a C corp? Did you think of doing a general? Did you think of doing a sole proprietor, right? Obviously, if you have more than one person, it's not gonna work, but, you know, all these things, right? Is that the best option? And what are the tax implications? Yeah,
Taxes are a big one in this industry.
anybody else? What other
I
questions?
saw you had your hand raised. Are you still willing to share?
I was going exactly the same as she said, that it's just, yeah, I have a day job, corporate job, so doing the jump to something independent is super scary. I just had a baby a few months ago, so even more scary and
Congratulations.
it is,
Yeah. Yeah, when's the right time? Totally get it. Yeah, great. Taxes is what I hear a lot, taxes and retirement. All right, so we heard a couple of those on here, and these are the most common concerns that we hear when we're talking to new business owners, or even more established business owners. And I think this one right here is probably my favorite, and one that we just talked about. How do we balance the business finances with our personal finances? How do we also protect our personal finances from the business? How do we protect the business from our personal finances? And these are things that we work with our clients with all the time. Setting up the right tax, what's the word I'm looking for?
that's right.
Liability, what legal?
Yes, the right tax strategies, the right legal strategies, exactly right. And we do it like this. So we talked about opening up, being vulnerable, not having to do everything on your own. These are some of the key helpers that you're gonna, oh, I like the phones. These are some of the key advisors you're gonna wanna have in your corner. Not just a financial advisor, but also an attorney, corporate, an estate attorney. If you are at the place where you're looking at funding at a larger scale, you're gonna want an investment banker or a business valuation specialist. You will always want an accountant or a bookkeeper. Yeah, please.
When I see this right now, my head goes, oh my God, 5 people I need to pay.
Start small, start with one, start with yourself, build over time. I would say if we're putting them in order, accountant, bookkeeper is probably gonna be at the start, financial advisor at the start. I think the other attorney is good, you'll want that in your corner just in case, and then you can sort of build over time. Does doesn't have to be all at once on day one.
And I think I'll add on to that too, right? We always get people all the time that come to us and they have these needs. They're like, I don't have an account. We're like, great, we have 5, right? We work with so many different types of people because again, every single person needs a unique setup. They just do, right? There might be some overlap, right? But everybody needs a unique setup. So ask people in your trustworthy, circle, hey, who do you use, right? Well, what, or are they gonna kind of meet them, right? Because also you have to vibe together, right? Very California vibe. But that's the other thing too, right? You have to make sure that all of your team members also work together.
Yeah.
Very well as well. So it is gonna be nice. Obviously, we work really well with the 5 CPAs that we always refer people out to, and they work really well with us, so they refer us to people. So that's also very important, is having the right people in place, but also making sure that they're all talking with each other. And all of our goals and values, right, are all trying to, hey, let's make this person's goal, passion, whatever it is, business, successful. That should be the main, commonality between everybody.
And I can give a specific example with Taylor and I, I'm gonna share this. Taylor came to me about, 2 weeks ago and said, hey, I have an artist. I think they're at a place where they want to have some financial advice and guidance. She knows that my space is here in this industry and she trusts me, so she brought me into the conversation. That that manager actually shared that they're looking for an attorney to look over their contracts. So I sent him a referral to an entertainment attorney that I trust. So this is just a great example of finding the people that you trust, that you can open up to, that you know have your best interests and see your vision with you, and then leaning on their network and their contacts. And diving into that deeper, I think as financial advisors with non-industry folk, I typically call us the quarterbacks of your advisory team. We're the ones translating the conversation between all of these people and bringing it to you, and we can be that central point of contact. In this room, I'm going to relate us to music supervisors, and if you're familiar with how they work on a project, they are speaking with the composer and the studio head and the music library they're licensing music with, maybe the artist directly, the music editors, the screenwriter, whoever might be involved, and they're translating those conversations to all the other players involved in the project, and that is very similar to how Taylor and I work. And then we're talking about money, or getting into the funding, which seems to be very popular in this group. So there are 3 big pieces that we want to integrate into your artistry, or becoming a freelance supervisor, or starting a library, or whatever your philanthropic efforts, whatever it is that might be interesting to you that has a dollar sign and your name attached to it. And that's working capital, so your cash flow. What do you have versus what do you owe? Your assets versus your liabilities. What do you have versus your debts? Your business investment portfolio, and this is our bread and butter, Taylor and I. It's your company has money, maybe you're building a scholarship or a trust, or you've got different financial pieces and types of accounting within your business. This is your investment portfolio. Is it sitting all in cash? Or do you have some stocks, bonds, alternatives, real estate, whatever it is that's interesting? And lastly, your funding, which I keep hearing in this conversation. So funding is, of course, finding more money to fund your idea. So let's talk about that piece, funding specifically. So I'm not going to go into too much depth. I didn't know what level this room was going to be at, so we're going to cover some of the basics, mostly if you're getting started. But like Taylor mentioned, if you want to talk one-on-one or ask some questions when we get to Q&A, please do. So typically when people are starting out, artists, music supervisors, what have you, library owners, they're bootstrapping. And bootstrapping is building a company from the ground up with nothing but personal savings, assets, and the cash coming from first sales. So I relate this to, if you're in the Elvis family, they stole my analogy, but I relate this to the tortoise and the hare. So VCs, corporate partnerships, those are the hare. That's you get there quick. You have a lot of money and you've scaled up really fast, which the downside of that approach is it might not be sustainable. You might not have that trajectory over the long run. Versus bootstrapping is You're relying on your sales. You're building only as fast as you can literally afford based on how much you're making within your idea, within your project. So this is the tortoise, in the tortoise and the hare example. You are incrementally over time building and funding your business at an appropriate level. Not to say that one is better than the other, it's just something to consider on how quickly you want to scale and how sustainable that might be. When bootstrapping, like I mentioned, sometimes people use things like their insurance, their investments, their 401ks, loans, credit cards. All of these can be good ideas, but this is the piece when you start adding accounts to your name or drawing from accounts to your name for the purpose of your business. This is when you want to bring in that advisory team, your financial advisor, your attorneys, your accountants, because there are definitely detriments that can be had when we start drawing from these types of accounts if you're not fully aware. Next after bootstrapping is friends and family, obviously. I did not realize that friends and family accounts for, according to this stat from the Women in Small Business Statistics, wherever I pulled it from, is 25% of startup funding. That is fascinating to me and a little bit surprising because
It's wild.
it's wild. I mean, it's nice to have, dad give you a check or your sister give you a check or whatever. But for me, the risk of that emotional strife, do you want to be talking about the money you owe your sister over Thanksgiving dinner every single year? I mean, that's a real consideration.
Thought relationship questions were tough.
Yeah.
Start talking about
When am I getting my check?
When am I getting my paycheck back?
Yeah.
When do you give me money back?
And then what happens if your idea fails and you lose that person's money? Do you lose that relationship as well? Something to think about when we're tapping friends and family. And then next is crowdfunding. This is one that I think is forgotten. Crowdfunding is a way to tap your friends, family, and strangers without those strings attached. So we've all heard of Kickstarter, Indiegogo. If you're a female founder, we've got My Fun Women. There you go, Ashley. One that I always say around my clock, go fund yourself, but it's GoFundMe. That's another one, I didn't put it up here, but that's a popular one as well. But the idea here is you can tap lots of people for whatever amount that they want to go toward your idea, with, again, no strings attached, nobody's taking equity in your company. It's a great way to crowdfund, and I'm going to give you an example of how this can be super successful unexpectedly. So, true story, there was a guy who had an idea for a potato salad recipe, and he put it up on, I don't know, GoFund yourself, and he wanted $10, only $10 for potato salad. He had 6,911 people donate. He raised over $55,000 for his potato salad recipe. So
Better be good potato salad.
hell yeah! So if someone can raise that for potato salad, this can be an awesome way, again, with no strings attached, to get yourself up off the ground. And then also one that I think is often forgotten is grants. I don't know, is anybody here from Canada by chance? No, not today.
I work with Canadians.
Oh, what's that?
I work with Canadians.
Okay, so maybe for yes.
I'm not from Canada, I'm from Germany, and we get a lot of grants.
There you go.
That's right, Germany too. There are, unfortunately for America, fortunately for the crown of Germany, there are a lot of subsidies and opportunities for artists to get money from the government. In the US it does exist, it's just a lot of competition and there aren't quite as many. But grants can be a great way, especially if you're certified as a minority-owned or women-owned business. It's a great way to stand, I see you. It's a great way to stand out above the competition. And again, a no strings attached way to find money for your idea. Quite simply, you can write this down, grants.gov. That's where it exists. You apply, it takes time. Again, lots of competition. Again, trying to find ways to make yourself stand out. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Taylor. She, again, is our boots on the ground California part of our partnership. So she's going to talk to you about some ideas that are very important for us in California, for employees and retaining business assets.
Yeah, so, and I'll just kind of walk around, so sorry for the head swivels, but maybe I'll go over here so you guys can see too. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, critical 5, okay, it's everybody is completely different, right? Which we keep saying, there's different things that we need to focus on, different strengths, different weaknesses. Managing cash flow, that is a big one, right? Do we have enough money to go quit our day jobs, right? Do we have enough money to keep the business going when COVID happens and there is no people that we can talk to in person? Do we have enough money to, hey, I want to sustain this business, but can I go out and get my bag of groceries at the food store, right? So finding somebody that can help manage that cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out, and especially in the entertainment industry, it is not like a bi-weekly check that you're getting, right? You might do a big project, might get a huge lump sum, a lot of taxes on it, right? And then you might not see anything for months, weeks, years, right? So all of these things, we gotta make sure, okay, do we have the funds to keep us going when we are, a little bit dry on projects? But integrating your personal business plan with your personal plan, we've been hitting on it all meeting, basically, what are we doing? Presenting? Yeah, all presentation. Ooh, not good with numbers, not great with English, but optimizing investment decisions. Again, bringing us in or doing it yourself, right? Having someone actually sit down and teaching you what's going on, not someone trying to talk over your head about what's going on. That's a big thing for me. I just found, again, not a lot of education. So, do you need to know what the returns were on a certain fund 5 years ago? No. If you want to, we'll tell you. But, optimizing your investment, having your money work for you while you're sleeping, right? Having your money do this so that you can manage your cash flow when you don't have a project coming on. Protecting your business, right? Do we want an LLC? Do we want an S corp? There's actually different ways that you're protected, also different tax implications of that. So making sure that your business is actually set up properly. Not that you just have the right team around you, right? The team that's looking out for you, but is your business actually set up to succeed in the most optimized way possible? And lastly, attracting and retaining talented employees. That's one we really want to hit on, and because California, long time ago, right? There's a lot of turnover, especially with us millennials. Love it. Okay,
2.5 years.
we love just bouncing around, right? But they actually did a study. California is way higher on the amount of turnover. Okay. Now, what they found was it wasn't the comfy chairs, it wasn't the nap pods, it wasn't free food, although I love food, love free breakfast. Okay. It was actually a large part into employees feeling that they were valued and feeling that their employer actually cared about their future, whether it was with them and their vision or somewhere else. And a lot of that comes with 401k or just retirement plans in general. So this happened so much so that in 2016, an actual bill was passed in California that mandated five or more businesses, right? You have a business, and I didn't say that right. Again, bad with English, good with math. 5 or more employees of your business, right? You actually are mandated to have a retirement plan put in place. Mandated.
As of 91 days ago.
Well, then that's the thing. So, of course, this is 2016. It actually was implemented, the last deadline was 91 days ago. And why we say 91, like Taylor just say 3 months. We get it, okay? That's because if you haven't done it, you will be receiving something in the mail, email, text message, I don't know how the government's gonna do it, but you now owe them money because you're penalized. $250 per employee that you have because you did not set up a retirement plan. 90 more days, that goes up to $750 per employee as a penalty, okay? So California has a lot of very interesting niches, very interesting details with. It's hard, but I like it so much because you need to know these things, right? And again, all of you are saying, okay, it's just me and my assistant. I don't need to worry about that. I'm good. Okay, 2025, it's 1 or more employees. That's the deadline. So everybody is going to have this. Now, you can do cow savers, okay? That is the government funded, 401, well, actually it's not a 401k plan, but it's the government funded retirement plan. Okay, and there's pros and cons, right? But the big one is it's essentially a Roth IRA, really. And if you know Roth IRAs and are using it as your main retirement account, you know what a problem that is. It's a really big issue. $6,000 a year. Taylor, I don't want to work when I'm 85 years old. Okay, well, you better be putting away more than $6,000 a year, right? So, it's hard. And you need to have somebody that actually knows all these things, and especially if you want to retain your employees, there are a multitude of different ways that you can set up your retirement accounts. You've got SEPs, you've got SARSEPs, you've got IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, you've got so many different things, and like you're saying, where do I start? Like, what do I do? This is all so much information, that's a lot of people. Bring us in, bring in people.
Is that for W-2 employee or 1099?
Say that one more
Is
time.
that for W-2 employee or 1099 as far as?
I think W-2, but I would say, because 1099 is more self,
Okay, so
employed,
just
so.
be specifically for W-2.
It's more, yeah, now if it's 1099, then again, you have your business with 5 or more people, right? You employ 5 or more people, you're actually paying them, it still applies. Did I answer
For
that?
independent contractors?
Hmm?
For independent contractors?
The 1099s?
Yeah, you would still need a retirement account for independent contractors.
What, not like, oh, so if you're like employing independent contractors from every, no. Okay, good. Where was I? I think, yeah. I wanna look into it though, because if they change it,
Yeah.
like in 2025 and it's one person, one or more,
Has to go to.
yeah. I wanna look into it, but yes, yes. So again, things like retirement planning, things like taxes, things like how to set up an actual corporation, right? What corporation, all these different items are just, again, very, very unique. You wanna try and keep your team around you. And again, there's just a lot of different ways to do it, so let's optimize it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we're gonna wrap it up here before some Q&A. Basically, I know we didn't get into, it sounds like there's interest for VCs, corporate partnerships, angel investors, incubators. If you wanna talk about that stuff, we certainly can. You've got our information here. But to wrap this all up, the point today is bring in people you trust. I don't care if it's Taylor or I, but find people that you can work with, that you know have your vision in mind, your best interests at heart. You don't have to do it all on your own. As simply as maybe you find a mentor in this room or in this conference, friends and family. Run your ideas, run your SWOT analysis past them, because they might have a different perspective of what you are great at and maybe not so great at in comparison to what you can reflect on yourself. So bring in those trusted partners within the industry, within your friends and family, find those crowdfunding opportunities. You don't have to do it all on your own. So that concludes our workshop. Thanks for attending, and we'd love to take some questions and answer questions.
Burning question, so for the crowdfunding for Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all of that, what are the tax implications on a federal and state level?
My understanding is it is looked at as income, so you
So
do
if
have
you
to pay
spend
taxes.
it, you have that write-off, but anything left over would then be taxed.
I don't
Like
know
if you're
about
raising
spending, if you can write it off, then
Yeah,
that's a little bit more of a CPA question, which neither of us are licensed as tax advisors. But my understanding is if that comes into your wallet, if it is assessed as income, then you're taxed on it. Unless you have, for example, you have a solo 401k and you can put money away, or if you're able to write it off with your CPA. That's my best understanding. I don't know if you have a different understanding.
So 100,000 comes in, but you put 80,000 towards the business and demonstrable business expenses, you would only be taxed on the 20 left over as income.
Well, that would depend on how you have your business entities set up, like the LLC or the S corp, for example. What are you using as personal income versus business income? Yeah, thank you. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah?
I'm sure it's easy to reply to, but I always wonder, especially as an artist, there's endless things to spend money on. How do I prioritize? Like, oh, do I invest in the song, or the video, or the conference, or the course, or in a laptop, or in a book?
Yeah. I have an answer for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, it's also, you invest in something, right? Whether that be, you're right, laptop, song, movie, time, education, right? Also, I personally like to do if I get the laptop, right? Okay, yeah, it may be a bigger expense. I know, I get it, I'm cool. It might be a bigger expense up front, but is that gonna help you produce 10 songs that all are top hits and brings in millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Right, so, I think kind of looking at it like that way, is what tools and resources are going to bring in. Also, hey, do I do I get an education, somewhere at $80,000 a year school, and then, what I'm doing is really great and I'm passionate about it, but it's only bringing in, a couple thousand a year. It's kind of like, okay, well, that's how I would typically prioritize, but.
I would say the same thing, and for me personally, my benchmark that I recommend and use myself is a 5-to-1 return. So if I spend $1,000 on a piece of equipment, am I realistically going to get $5,000 in royalties or license checks or whatever it is that might be interesting to you? So that's sort of how I think about it. I try something, spend the money. If it doesn't bring a 5 times return, then it's something I scrap in the future.
I'm wondering about fees, so if you're talking about attorneys and a financial advisor and this and that, is there like a percentage of what you bring in a year that you suggest is a healthy kind of fee balance before you're looking at, 60% of your salary is going to pay your financial advisor? Or somebody like that, or an attorney, and before you know it, you're paying all this money in fees, and you don't have any money left.
So your question is there a certain amount or certain percentage that you would invest and then spend money on having someone do that for you?
Right, so if you're saying, I can balance this now because 20% of my money is going towards my attorney and is going towards my accountant, and therefore I can kind of balance it in my head, when I get to call my attorney, instead of, returning the problem, I can, you can kind of balance it in your head. Do you have a percentage that's healthy?
I don't know necessarily a percentage, but I think it kind of goes back to the same question, right? Like, what is that advisor or attorney or tax professional doing in return, right? So, not on a year-by-year basis, right? Like if you were to ask any financial advisor what's going on right now, I don't know how many people are looking at markets, but they're all down like pretty much 20%. So every advisor sucks this year. They do, seriously. But again, if they've like set up your account and it's honestly more of a trust thing. Every advisor can do pretty well. I think there's some obviously super biased, but I think there's some like us that pay a little bit more attention to what the needs are of a client, right? If you want something that's super, super, super aggressive and is going to make you a lot of money, you can do that. You're going to take a lot of risk. Your portfolio is probably down 35% this year. So you thinking about, okay, well I have this in cash. Let's just use that as an example. I have something in cash. It's doing about 0.4%. It's really, really safe. Okay. But if you tell me, Taylor, I am trying to retire at 50. I don't want to work after that. I want to really, really focus on just whatever it is. I really enjoy reading and eating at the same time sometimes. So, that's what I would love to do in retirement. Just like read and eat on the beach somewhere. Okay. But do you have enough money to do that, right? Do you have enough money to quit your job and go actually do your passion, right? Can you quit your corporate job? So all of these things, it's extra added in value that we don't typically get paid for. We get paid for managing assets on your behalf, which pretty much a lot of people can do. But it's all this other, hey, let's bring in estate attorneys, let's bring in tax professionals, let's make sure your business is set up properly, let's set up a 401k for you. All of those things we don't get paid for. So it's a big kind of opportunity cost, I would say. Really long-winded answer to like there's no real specific, part of your salary that you should be paying.
I don't have I've never actually been asked that question when it relates to business, but I do have an answer for that for personal, which I think could maybe apply. Has anybody heard of the 50-30-20 principle? Yeah. Cool. Let's see if I'm that's nice. So it's saying that 50% of your net income should go toward what you need: fixed costs, mortgage, medication, gas, whatever it is. 30%. Getting this right. 30% goes toward your wants. I'm not flipping those. I'm not sure. 30 or 20%. I'd have to refresh my memory.
It's wants.
Wants. Okay. 30% goes to your wants. So vacation, Grubhub, Netflix, whatever. 20% goes toward investing in your future. So I think you could probably apply that to business principles as well.
I have a question. I have an export. And I have a question about like distribution versus salary because for people I talk to, say we have to pay yourself like a normal or acceptable industry standard wage, obviously. But for the same thing that you're advertising, like it's not really something you can do. What is the same 50/50 or 60/40 or even like 70/30, what I can pay like 30% income and then 70% distribution. But obviously I don't wanna like push the percentage down, right, like get in trouble. Figure out what maybe more.
When you say distribution, what do you mean by that?
Like the revenues, that's okay, the wrong word, but it's like I have an account that's going out quarterly for salary, and then I can take out distributions that are taxed at a variable salary. And that is like a different percentage, so it's like 64 or something like that.
So is your question, what is the industry standard for sole proprietorship wage?
Yeah, because that's hard to, like in music, but it's hard to say that, oh, it's the standard person.
Yeah.
So like, how do you gauge this in for tax purposes, so you don't.
I don't have a great answer, I think that's a little bit more of a CPA question, do you have any ideas on that?
No, I was gonna say it's more of a CPA, but it's also gonna be really beneficial, for like actually sitting down and saying what your goals are as well, versus industry standards. So, you know, obviously, there's industry standards for pretty much everything, but they're more guidelines. But we should talk afterwards for sure, just learn a little bit more about what kind of business, I mean, I know you said you support, but what kind of business it is and kind of what you're looking to get out of it, and then if we can build an answer better that way.
And again, not a licensed tax advisor here, but I can speak to my own clients who, I've got one client who creates online content and branding for artists. And she makes probably $150, but she claims $20K. She's just got that many write-offs and ways that we've sort of legally pushed taxes to the side. So I don't know that you have to worry so much about the end, what you're reporting optically, as long as it's, you know, appropriately accounted for.
Just wanted to ask you if on your one-on-ones, if you help clients with setting up a business plan or if you refer them to resources for that.
We do from an investing standpoint, certainly. I don't know that I really much more depth than that, do you?
I mean, it's gonna be a huge part of your overall business plan, right? Like, we wouldn't help with like how to market and stuff, or things like that, but we definitely bring this into the conversation and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of, you know, where do I start? I help clients with that all the time, and just where to start. Now, I might say, hey, you need to bring in a CPA here, or you need to bring in a business manager here, or you need to bring in a music supervisor here, right? But we at least can morph the bigger picture and say, okay, this is where you utilize us. And as fiduciary, I don't know if fiduciaries, like, we're legally held to the responsibility to actually do things on your behalf and for you, right? Legally, if we don't have your best interest at heart, we get in trouble. So we're not just gonna be like, hey, yeah, you have to put everything in Morgan Stanley. That's stupid. And if anybody tells you that, just run straight out the door. But for an overall business plan, I'd say, yeah, definitely include us in the conversation, and we can at least point you in the right direction of how to start up or who to talk to.
Can you guys speak on like single rates or solo rates?
Sure. What do you want to know?
Well, I've gotten different numbers, so when I'm talking about talk to, one person said that you could put up like 27K or something around that into a solo pay, and then someone else said you could put up to like 56. So I'm not sure what was the correct number.
So 401k, I mean, solo or regular, you know, the overall retirement funding is the same. It changes every year. So 2022, it is 61,000. It's either 60,000 or 61,000. But for something like a 401k, you can only put up to 20,500 yourself. Then if you're with an employer and the employer matches, that counts towards the 60,000. So say, and pretty much no company does this, except if you're basically a SEP and you're your own employer and you're like, yeah, the employer is paying 100% of whatever, you know, just to say it, it's fun. But if somebody were to say, hey, I'm gonna match 100% of your contributions, that's now $41,000. You still have, let's just use 60 for the example, I just don't know which one it is. You still have $19,000 that you can put into a retirement account. So the way people get around this, 2014, there was actually a law put in place, it's called a mega backdoor Roth contribution. So seeing, Roth IRAs, again, as your main retirement account, not great. But in this sense, if you have this extra money and you don't know what to do with it and you're trying to put it into a retirement account, it's a little bit complicated, but you basically put in after-tax money to your 401k and immediately roll it over into a Roth IRA. So you already paid tax on it, there's no tax on the conversion, and now it's Roth money, you get to take that out, all the earnings tax-free when you turn 60 or whenever you decide to pull from it. So for 2022, it's 60 or 61,000, but there's ways to actually, if you're just doing a 401k, you're not gonna hit that, but there's ways around it. For now, they've been talking about closing that loophole, but haven't done it yet, so.
Not so much a question, but just an add-on to what she was saying. If you do have a solo 401k and you're contributing, you can contribute quite a bit. Same with your CPA, because if you're also under the Affordable Care Act for health insurance, like I am, then you can really totally legally make it work so that if you're about to go over that threshold for your insurance and your premium is about to go up, you contribute towards your retirement account and it keeps your health insurance at a reasonable rate. So it's one of the, I'm so grateful that I learned about solar 401ks.
That was an electric. They're awesome. And the benefit, an added benefit to solar 401k, not only putting away extra money for retirement, but brings down your current retirement.
And I know we're definitely
Yeah,
over time.
we're over.
But, again, if you have more questions, seriously, feedback forms, we love the feedback. We want to do better. Chicago and Philly, continue it, okay?